Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ambassador's Lounge. Since the Taliban's return to power in 2021, Afghanistan has faced precarious economic recovery. The recent World Bank data shows modest GDP growth. The country grapples with large fiscal pressures. Adding to it is the declining foreign aid, increased poverty, hunger, and these are the vulnerabilities which expose the Taliban regime to external and internal pressures. At the same time, Taliban's systematic repression of women, their ban on women education at secondary and higher level, these things have isolated the Taliban within their own country. Compounding the situation is the Taliban's links to militant and terrorist organizations which have bases inside Afghanistan and where they get financial and logistical support from the Taliban. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is despite the fact that Taliban have time and again assured the international community that under them Afghanistan soil would not be used for conducting or for terrorist activities outside the country, elsewhere. During a briefing at the United Nations Security Council, a Danish deputy permanent representative in a role as chair of the ISIL and Al-Qaeda sanctions committee pointed that TTP posed a serious threat in Central and South Asia and has been receiving logistical and substantial support from the de facto Afghan authorities. Ladies and gentlemen, efforts by the regional countries both collectively and at bilateral level have failed to convince the Taliban of the need to live in a peace and harmonious manner with its neighbors. So now the question is, will the world not be safer without such a repressive regime which not only represses its own people, conducts serious human rights violations, but also resorts to terror as a state policy? Is regime change a necessity to stabilize the country and prevent it from plunging into further chaos? Let's discuss. My panelists are Ambassador Asif Durrani and Ambassador Amjad Sher. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Asif, is regime change in Afghanistan really desirable at the moment? Given the fact that TT's that's Tehrik-e-Taliban Afghanistan's reluctance to rein in terrorist group, besides the fact that within their own country it's a very unpopular regime. They have, you see the economic aspect, you see the social aspect, they're in fact isolated within their own country.
I think, Imran, short answer is that this Taliban regime is heading towards a regime change by themselves, because they have proved that they are unable to control and govern the country, socially, economically, as well as you can say from counterterrorism point of view. In all aspects, they have failed to deliver, which is why now you have referred to the Danish DPR's statement given to actually Al-Qaeda committee and ISIS committee. And this is separate from the Taliban committee, which is 1988 committee. So it is quite revealing, because she singled out TTP as the largest terrorist group.
And most potent threat to the region.
And threat not only to Pakistan,
but to the region.
But to Central and South Asia.
Exactly.
So now what does this indicate? I mean, what Pakistan has been saying, in fact, Pakistan has been vindicated. And this Afghan Taliban regime should realize that they are isolating themselves in the neighborhood and extended region. and which would ultimately go against their interests. And it would also lead towards regime change, because then opposition will have more reason to be active and come together and launch a united struggle against the Taliban order.
Do you think opposition, that is the resistance front, do you think they are already carrying out some activities against Taliban?
They have already started it. And in fact, not in public, but they have been active in the north of Afghanistan. And also recently they had in Badakhshan
province,
which was in fact quite revealing. And then more importantly, there is an opposition inside the country among the non-Pashtuns, and then their actions against women in fact has made the Taliban regime unpopular worldwide. Even the OIC has condemned Taliban's action, denying the girls to go to school.
That has been condemned universally.
It is universally condemned.
Amjad, continuing what Asif just said, he said that regime change is desirable. But do you think that regional powers can coordinate a unified position on Afghanistan's future? Or are their interests too divided? Do you think their interests are divided?
Thank you, Imran. In the first place, when the current Afghan government was installed or brought into power, it was under an agreement which is known as Doha Agreement, in which there were 4 important elements. But this was and the one was most important element was the Afghan soil would not be used for against any neighboring countries or any country, and mostly that they are going to control terrorism from their soil. And at the same time, now it is almost 4 years that they are in power, and I think that the Taliban the Afghan government has failed to ensure that they have met that commitment to provide a stable Afghanistan, and it was already. Now there are 2 elements, 2 important events have taken place in the recent past. One was, as Ambassador Asif Durrani mentioned, about the Badakhshan event, and it was obviously by the National Resistance Force, which was led by the former Afghan Army Chief Yasin Zia, and it obviously from the Tajikistan region, because Badakhshan is an important region bordering with Tajikistan, China, and also to some extent because of the this Wakhan border with Pakistan also. So that attempt was also repulsed, but it is the beginning of that, that for a regime change in Afghanistan, and it's going to continue. It's not going to not cease or is not going to stop for this. And the other was this recent meeting of the 6th Central Asian Republic's heads of the states in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, and their focus was how to handle and tackle the situation in Afghanistan, because Afghanistan is the only bottlenecks.
So have they, after this meeting, have they come out with a unified position on Afghanistan's future?
Their unified position, as reported in the media, was that they need to resolve the issue in Afghanistan, the stability, the peace, and also the
but
terrorism.
I think everyone agrees that there's a need to resolve the issues inside Afghanistan, but those issues cannot be resolved, Asif, unless and until the Taliban take a step. So what is required is convincing the Taliban that, look here, this is not only for the safety and security and stability of their own country, but also for the safety, security and stability of the region.
There is already a pressure on the current Taliban Afghan government. And now another meeting is going to be held, important meeting is going to be held in Iran next month in December, in which Uzbekistan and Pakistan, China, Russia, Turkey, Qatar, all these countries are going to participate. And their only focus is to how to resolve the tension and how between India and Pakistan and Afghanistan, and also to ensure stability in Afghanistan.
Okay, Asif, do the regional states like Pakistan, Iran, China, Central Asian states, I don't consider Turkey and Qatar as part of our regional setup. Now, do you think they would welcome the idea of a change, or would they prefer dealing with the Taliban despite all the risks involved?
No, I think they are aware of the risks, and there is a regional approach required. And I think Pakistan has, to a greater extent, succeeded in convincing the regional actors, especially immediate neighbors of Afghanistan, Russia, and Turkey and Qatar are already on board, and they have had a role to mediate, although it did not succeed. So regional approach is very important, and that would in fact make the Afghan Taliban realize that they are not living in an island. So whatever they want to do, they will go scot-free. This is not going to happen like this. And they have to, and more importantly, if they think that they want to rule in Afghanistan, stability is needed. And that stability would only come if there is an inclusive approach whereby Afghan minorities, religious and ethnic minorities, they are on board.
So what would the political order look like in Afghanistan? According to our point of view, Amjad has talked about these meetings. What sort of a political order do they envisage which could bring stability and reduce extremist violence?
It is expecting a reduction of extremist violence would be a tall order, at least for the time being, because Afghan Taliban themselves belong to the extremist order, and that is now ruling. But their behavior is as if they are still in opposition. So that is also a big challenge. So we have to convince the Taliban that now they are ruling the country. And when you are ruling the country, then you have to behave responsibly.
Look, Asif, you have a point, mate. And this is one thing which you have repeatedly been saying, and I'm sure you have communicated this thing when you were in SRA to your counterparts. But the fact is, and I think we have learned through experience, that Taliban are not going to listen to you. Period. So now, in that case, what sort of a political order do you envisage for peace, for stability?
That's what I indicated, that at the bilateral level, if things did not move, then you are opting for a regional approach.
A regional approach has not succeeded till now.
No, but that was mediatory approach.
A Moscow format is not a mediatory approach.
Moscow
SCO
format
is not a mediatory approach.
Moscow format has not indulged as far as telling the Taliban that how they have to behave as a good neighbor. And then in that case, if those diplomatic efforts fail, then I'm afraid then all the regional countries would perhaps be forced to change their policy towards the Taliban. How?
What sort of policy change do you see?
When we say change the policy, means that at the moment they had taken the Afghan Taliban as fait accompli. But then they'll have to revert to the earlier order, and those alternatives are perhaps that would be minus Taliban.
And do you think the regional countries agree to this change of setup?
I think this is a very important question, but needs more debate, and that's why I think
we are debating here, mate.
No, that's why we are debating. But countries as states, when they meet, hopefully in Tehran in next month, so I think there'll be those issues would come up
Amjad?
for serious discussion.
Do you have a point of view?
The one thing is that after the current government has shifted its sides, and they have now going more closer to India, it means that Pakistan is now an irrelevant country for them. They are no more.
That's a very big statement you're making. How is it? Okay.
Yes, because they have shipped, and so far they have not in direct contact with Pakistan. At the same time, Pakistan has also adopted a policy of disengagement with Afghan current government. That's why they have involved the countries like Qatar and friendly countries like Qatar and Turkey to mediate and to convince them that this is not the right approach. That if they are not going to control the TTP, which has its base in Afghanistan, then it's not going to work like this, and Pakistan will have no option than to control the TTP or the Afghan government through its own resources. And Pakistan is more powerful if we compare it with the Taliban government. And there is already, differences in the cadre of the current Afghan government. The Kandari group and the Kabul group and the host group, they are already not.
Now, how strong are these differences? Do you think they are strong enough to bring about a change in leadership?
Well, that is another important question. But so far, Hibatullah Akhundzada is in power, and his edict and his fatwas are working and are acceptable and applicable to all.
So this is what my question was, that do you think that there's a possibility of change emerging from within the Taliban or within the system prevalent in Afghanistan? Amjad?
Well, Taliban still, as Ambassador Durrani has pointed out, they are still well entrenched, and there is no such things visible.
So there is no threat to their power, to their authority.
There is no threat to their power, but you never know, and that change can take place anyway, because regional countries, especially the Central Asians, as I mentioned, and also from Tajikistan, there was an attack. So there can be a coup from inside.
So there are two aspects. One is, Asif, that within the Taliban there are differences. That differences result in regime change. The second is that the opposition forces which are there, through the assistance of foreign elements, foreign actors, they march on Taliban, on Kabul, and they try to bring about a change. But in that case, they'll have to open a number of fronts against the Taliban.
These are the challenges which current Taliban dispensation is facing and will be facing in future. One, internally, there will be discontent because Mullah Hibatullah's edicts are actually making Taliban's rule difficult, and it is in fact increasing Taliban's isolation internationally. You already have seen, as far as girls' education is concerned, they are already isolated. No one is listening to them. Their legitimacy is still questionable because, except for Russia, other countries have not recognized the Taliban regime. And then there is, you can say, majority of the ruling Taliban hierarchies against the ban on girls' education. That is, rest for sure. In fact, I can vouch for that, and I'm privy to that.
So what you're saying is, within Taliban,
this is the internal aspect. The other is, as you said about the resistance. So that would in fact encourage the resistance, in fact, to align with the discontent group in Afghanistan among the Taliban, and it's a possibility. Third aspect is the external support, and that external support, if it goes to the resistance, so it can make life difficult for the Taliban.
Badakhshan episode, do you think it's a start of the?
It could be a precursor to the events that may follow.
Could it have the backing of external forces?
Well, it is only a matter of decision by the external forces.
According to reports in Badakhshan episode, the Taliban suffered casualties, heavy casualties.
They are in fact suffering casualties even in Kabul. In fact, in 2s or 3s or 4s, their pickets are attacked. This is not something new. This is besides the point that it is not reported officially, but otherwise, Afghan social media is full of these reports. Same is true about the northern Afghanistan, where you have non-Pashtun population in majority. So these events are taking place.
The other point is that if Taliban fail to correct and rectify their course and their approach and their thinking, I have every apprehension that, God forbid, if it happens, it would be disaster for the whole region, that this country will dissolve into.
So that's what I was going to ask you gentlemen, that it's scary. If you think a regime change, it brings about more uncertainty. It can go good, it can go right, it can create better circumstances for the country and for the region. But the worst is, if it goes bad, what would happen? It would create greater instability in the region.
The country will dissolve into pieces on ethnic lines. This I can only simply say in
But that would create power vacuum, Asif.
It did. And indeed, in fact, just not the non-Pashtun elements in Afghanistan. Even Pashtuns, there is discontent among the Pashtuns. And the reason is that perhaps within the internal dynamics of Afghanistan, perhaps they may reconcile. But they are also looking at the growing isolation which Afghanistan is facing. Just take the example that restrictions on Afghan trade from the Pakistan side has caused a lot of problems.
Financial loss also.
Billions of rupees.
Billions of rupees losses. And if this continues, I'm afraid the poverty level in Afghanistan would increase. And that is dangerous for us also, because it would be like you are fracturing your own hand, and it would still be with you but painful. So this is something we have to look at it very seriously, and Taliban regime will have to realize that what do they want? Do they want stability in their own country? Do they want good relationship with their neighbors, including Pakistan? And so they'll have to decide. This is not something that it is the brainwave of Mullah Habtullah, that he would say, you go right and you go right and
that's
you go
what is
left.
happening, Asif.
This is precisely what is happening.
We have seen what their mindset is. When it came to Osama bin Laden, they sacrificed, not sacrificed,
their own country.
Their whole thing. They brought destruction, death to their people.
Yeah.
So this is their mindset. So with that mindset, and many were thinking that Taliban 2.0 would have a different mindset. You were one of them who was very optimistic. But what we have seen is that their mindset has not changed.
Exactly.
Amjad?
Exactly, that is the reason that now they are facing these problems, these challenges, even from the regional country. Never in history I have ever seen that the Central Asian republics have ever held or focused a meeting on the situation in Afghanistan. Now it is happening.
Okay, Amjad, do you think we have seen President Trump expressing his desire to take over Bagram base? I believe that many think that it was just off the cuff remark, but I think that there was some method in this madness. Do you think Washington is prepared to invest political or diplomatic capital to influence change in Afghanistan?
Well, they will try, but it is for the current Afghan government to see and look at it, and then what would be the response of countries, especially Iran, China and Russia.
Of course, they will not agree.
Yes, they will not agree. So
but US has never taken into account what people say.
It is a question that has to be answered by these countries, that they are going to see the involvement of the U.S. forces or the U.S. Backing for taking over Bagram, and especially a regime change in Afghanistan. And one thing more is that, God forbid, if there is a regime change, one thing is that we, Pakistan, should not be actively and directly involved in the regime change. Because whatever government is
that's
there,
an ideal situation.
Yeah, that is an ideal situation, but we never know what kind of government comes into power after, if the current Afghan government is replaced by such certain groups, especially the Northern Alliance or the non-Pashtun, whatever is the Pashtun faction of the Afghan society is at least favorable towards Pakistan.
So, do you think Washington has an eye for, or are they interested in Afghanistan?
I don't think so. Because the main question would be, would the the Trump administration ready to send thousands of American soldiers to Bagram? Because Bagram would not be manned by a couple of hundreds. It would need thousands of soldiers. So I don't think that there is any appetite in the American administration.
And of course, how would China, Russia, Iran react to that?
So I think President Trump has asked for the Bagram, but I think he did not think about the requirements of maintaining the Bagram.
You have your point of view. I think that they
and
did.
Secondly, when you talk about regime change, American role in that they can play that role in any case because they are already giving financial aid to the Taliban regime. So if they want to play their whatever objectives they have, perhaps those can be fulfilled through their financial assistance.
That's
just
leverage
look at Taliban regime rushing towards India. Why? Because there are financial inducements available, incentives are available to them. And it's also a message to Pakistan that if you don't, have a relationship with us, so we have other options too. So they are trying to exercise those options. But I think that would be, is not going to benefit the Taliban because geography does not favor them or to India.
So you are talking about Pakistan. Do you think Pakistan is looking for an alternative that can better address cross-border terrorism?
Well, I think it would be a different option for Pakistan. And as the saying goes, that the enemy you know is better than the friend you don't know. So here I think the situation is we are caught in a dilemma.
Or rather, a devil you know is better than the angel you don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just please.
And the other thing is that the alternative you are talking about, let's look in the past, the Ashraf Ghani government and Hamid Karzai government, they were Pashtun, but they were mostly, in their cabinet were the non-Pashtun elements. So were they friendly towards Pakistan? Day and night, and they were after, talking about against Pakistan. So I think this is...
So while talking about regime change, how does Pakistan balance its fear of a power vacuum emerging out of this change, that could fuel greater extremism with the frustration it presently has over Taliban's refusal to act against TTP. So there are two aspects. One is if the regime change happens and there is greater violence, greater extremism, there is a power vacuum created, and then our situation at the moment. So how does Pakistan balance these two things, Asif?
It will be difficult. The question is, number one, my advice would be that I think leave the Afghans to their own devices. We have already burnt our fingers for the past over 4 decades. And the lesson learned is let the Afghans settle their own issues. we should not meddle, one. We should keep a respectable distance. I have been repeating this suggestion. Don't involve yourself. Nothing is going to happen, because in the neighborhood, if we have any apprehensions about India, that would be that India would give financial assistance to Afghanistan irrespective whether Afghan regime is friendly to Pakistan or not, because it would be India which will be taking the initiative. India would project its soft power in Afghanistan. It has, in the past also, it tried to project its soft power, because India does not have the geographical advantage. So it cannot, so that geographical advantage stays with Pakistan. So the best part which we can do, and rather than be caught within the Indian scheme of things, it is better that leave the Afghans to their own devices.
So
But here I maintain strict vigilance along the borders.
Okay, that goes without saying. But do we support, do we aspire regime change in Afghanistan?
We should not be talking in those terms. Reason is that let the Afghans settle their own scores, let the Afghans bring stability to their own
That's
country.
a very diplomatic answer. Mate, we have been dealing with Afghanistan, with Taliban since 2021. We have a good experience. Now, with all our experience, do we aspire a regime change in Afghanistan?
That's why precisely I said, based on that experience, don't involve yourself.
Do we aspire a change?
You aspire or not. Again, I'll repeat, I'll insist. Don't meddle.
Don't meddle. Amjad, your response to this?
Exactly, I agree and endorse his viewpoint, Ambassador Durrani, that whether we agree or whether we aspire or not, we should not get
We should not, that is for sure. Yeah. But in our heart of hearts, what do you want?
But
you have a country, you have a system, you have a regime which is encouraging terrorism in your country, which is killing people, right? And it's not agreeing to anything. What do you want?
We cannot predict, in case the current Afghan government is replaced, what kind of government in future will come in, and whether there will be as friendly or not towards Pakistan. And most important thing is that if as apprehended by the current Afghan government, that if they take action against the TTP, they are going to align with ISK. So if they are aligned with ISK, they are going to create more problems with the Afghan government. So it is better that the Afghan government should tackle and handle the TTP exactly in a way that
you said they should handle the TTP.
They should take care of them and should stop.
But they are not doing it, mate. They are
not doing it in the apprehending that they might join the ISK.
So they are not doing it.
That is why they also have the apprehension. And second most important thing, that the Taliban position about the TTP is that the TTP is emanating from Pakistan, and that's why it's for Pakistan to handle them.
But they're based inside Afghanistan.
They are based inside Afghanistan.
I think we should apprehend that even if we don't meddle, what should be our response if there is chaos in Afghanistan and it spills over to our side?
It's sensible.
That should worry us.
Of course.
And then in that respect, my suggestion would be, let's to have a regional approach, whereby you ensure that this spillover effect is controlled amicably, or at least to your satisfaction.
Gentlemen, you see, ideally speaking, you have a point of view. There should be a regional approach, of course, but time and again we have seen that regional it's basically the regime which is not expecting the voice of sanity. You are constantly, they don't even understand the norms of diplomacy. Anyways,
this is the challenge you have to face.
This is the challenge which you are facing, yes. So would Pakistan, Asif, prefer incremental reforms within the Taliban rather than outright regime change? Then that's what you're saying?
Well, that is an ideal situation. But is it coming?
Is it coming? Yes.
That's the big question.
And my point of view is that what kind of reforms, incremental reforms, you can accept from the current Afghan government when they have imposed sanctions and banning their own nationals, especially the female section of their society, from education and from doing jobs with some companies.
So people, that's what I'm saying.
Also negating them and denying them medical treatment. What kind of reforms we can expect from them if they are denying these basic things to their people?
Correct. So gentlemen, that's what I'm saying, that there is a system, there is a regime which is not a normal regime.
Yes.
And you say that, well, we should not meddle and I mean, do you want that system?
There are 6 countries around Afghanistan.
Amjad, do you aspire a change of the regime there? I'm not saying you meddle in it, but in your heart of hearts, in your mind of mind, do you aspire a change?
Let the people of
No, come on, give me. I can answer this question like this also. That's a very diplomatic answer.
Imran, rather than aspire, you apprehend. It's more an apprehension than aspiration, because they themselves are playing with fire. This TTP.
But that fire is affecting you also. That fire is affecting you also, mate.
Yes, it's just not us. All immediate neighbors are vulnerable to that.
It's happening more to us than the neighbors.
Of course, because of the peculiar situation along the border, the common tribes on both sides, which is not the case with other 5 neighbors of Afghanistan.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, final question. What outcome does Pakistan see as serving its long-term security and strategic interests in Afghanistan? Give me a good answer.
Right now the policy which we have adopted needs a little bit of adjustment. It should be, while we should be firm towards the Taliban government, I think we should not lose the support of the common Afghans. So it is, I think, that would suit both the countries and their interests, because Taliban may be a temporary phenomenon, because they are not going to rule forever, and we are talking about Afghanistan where change can be expected anytime. So therefore we should pursue a policy in which we don't lose the support of the Afghans. And then on Taliban thing, we have to be very strict about our own borders, our own safety, our own security. On TTP, there shouldn't be any compromise, and that is very important. And I think that is paying off. And the strict policy which now Pakistan has adopted has, in fact, if you have noticed, since 12th October till now, the number of attacks from the Afghan sides have reduced.
We had this
except for this suicide attack, but when you look at it overall graph,
that's not indicative. I mean, what you're saying is not indicative of the fact that it has ended.
No, it is not. But it shows that you have applied strict policy, and now you are exercising strict vigil along the border. You are exercising strict vigil as far as your handling with the Afghans are concerned. Your deportation policy is working, and then more importantly, smuggling has come down substantively. This has been said by the government.
One thing which you said, and it makes a lot of sense, is that Afghanistan is going to stay there. It will remain as our neighbor, and we need to cultivate the Afghans. We need to create a goodwill for us among the Afghans. You're right, Taliban is a phenomenon which may evaporate with the passage of time, but the Afghans are going to stay there. Now, mate, the deportation process which we are following, do you think it's creating a friendly feeling for us within the Afghans?
It is not. Frankly, it is not. And we have to think about it, because Yes, for illegal Afghans, fine. You have to apply your laws. You have to be strict, and there has to be rule of law. But when it comes to people who want to do their businesses here, they want to live here, they want to have. So I think we should have a flexible policy towards that.
Amjad, your take on it?
Yes, I agree with Ambassador Durrani that look, the Afghan for the last 40 years they have been living here in Pakistan. They have got their properties, they have got the businesses. So we should support those people who are doing their businesses here in Pakistan, and we should also facilitate them. As far as the illegal Afghans are, it's everywhere in all over the world that illegal people are deported to their home countries. And at the same time, one thing is more, that look, Afghanistan is our neighbor. We have got 2,600 kilometer long border right from Chetral, Khan up to to the Iran, Kandahar. So we should not forget that whatever happens in Afghanistan, it is going to come to our neck, because Afghanistan is our arm, and we should cultivate goodwill, friendly gestures, and also a sense that Pakistan is their friend, not their enemy.
You have struck the nail on the head, Amjad. And ladies and gentlemen, after tonight's discussion, we have reached a conclusion that Afghanistan's future and the future of the region should not and cannot lie in the hands of a regime which is repressive internally, which is unpopular internally, which is isolated internally, which has conducted gross human right violations of its own citizens. And externally, it is a regime which systematically encourages terrorism, has bases, has supports and logistically and financially the terror outfits. So the world can and the region can no longer afford the consequences of letting this status quo continue. Regime change, therefore, according to many people, is desirable for a more meaningful stability in the region. Now, experience has shown that the Taliban cannot be brought back into the fold. Therefore, what Afghanistan needs at the moment is a government which is moderate, which is more friendly towards its own people and is prepared to live in peace and harmony with its neighbors. And if the regime change occurs, it should come internally. That is, it should have the support of its own people. Otherwise, it will not be able to bring about stability. Any action externally or any change engineered externally could bring greater violence in the region. From what we have heard tonight from the panelists, one thing is clear: wait and doing nothing is not an option. Thank you for watching Ambassador's Lounge. Please subscribe to our channel and we'll be back.